A very good afternoon to all our viewers, and welcome to Old Donyo, where we've got some magnificent elephant bulls having a drink currently. I can see one bull in particular has got some massive tusks. Now, I'm going to be your host this afternoon, and with a start like this, I can see it also seems like it's quite warm there. I can see, looks like a nice little bit of a storm building in the background. I'm sure this is going to be a spectacular afternoon. And these elephants are just checking each other out. Almost like a standoff here. And I've decided to carry on. Guess there's more important things to do. Just sharing some resources. And I can see some of there's some oryx in the background and some giraffe as well. I'm going to say it again, it looks like a very hot day there. And I can see from these elephants, they've just come down to the water to cool down, have their daily drink. And there we have a giraffe. It was busy with something quite interesting. You can see a tree shaking there. I missed what he was doing at the start, but he might have been using the tree as a bit of a scratching post. Get rid of some of that excess parasites. But with all of the action happening around here, I'd like to remind our viewers that this is live and interactive. You can send through questions or comments. And yes, you can watch us on your app or on the website. Next to some questions, and you can send your questions to wildearth.tv/questions, or you can scan the QR code. And yeah, you're welcome to let me know what you'd like to see, if there's anything that you would like to chat about in particular. And you can also join the conversation on X using #WildEarth. And you can also join us on the YouTube chat and at FC when sending through your questions or comments. I think there's a lot to be chat about. The last few afternoons had some interesting questions that brought about some very interesting things to chat about. And one of those questions I got a few days ago was exactly how the elephant and the dassie or the hyrax is related. Now I want to go do a bit of research on that, and basically, well, there's a lot of different species of hyrax former species. It's now extinct, but in the larger scope of things, they had a common ancestor at one point where it split off, and one side of it became a little bit more aquatic than the other side. And that's where the elephants and the manatees, or the sea cows, the manatees, the dugongs, split off from the hyrax. Joe McClellan, you say it's off to a great start. And yes, elephants indeed, some beautiful elephants. I see Tammy says she's very happy to see Wonton. So am I as well. Very happy to get to see him. I've heard a lot about his reputation, which I'm hoping that I might get to see some. Okay, I seem to be having a bit of a audio issue today. There's a nice cold front over South Africa, and I can see here in Djuma, it looks like it's a little bit of a colder day as well. Quite a windy day from what I can see. But what an amazing view of this big elephant bull coming down to come and capitalize on some of the greener plants right here, right next to the deck. Something I notice about elephants is they are, especially some of the male elephants, the bigger bulls, they're a little bit more comfortable. Some of the food supplies like this, that's kind of harbored near the lodge. I find sometimes other animals might not come as close or not as regularly. CHS Moose, you're asking what tree the elephant's feeding on. It looks like one of the former acacia trees. I saw some straight thorns there, so now it's called a Vachelia. And it's very difficult to say for sure which species it is from here, but if I'd had to take a guess, I'd probably say it would be a river thorn or Vachelia robusta. It is also, and I'm also saying this due to the fact that it's such a bright green. I often find out, especially in the low veld, bushveld area, it is one of the first trees to get their leaves back, and it's usually a very, very bright, almost iridescent green, a very beautiful color. And with thorns that hefty, it certainly shows that there's a reason why it needs such big thorns. So it's for the protection of its new leaves, which is not deterring this elephant. As we can see, you see that trunk casually reaching up and beyond the thorns to go at some of the leaves. So, like long nails. And the elephant obviously have very, very sensitive parts around the mouth, but it's also very tough, able to handle this quite well. And the reward is very high. Tiny little leaves these trees have, but they're very high in protein, something that a big elephant bull like this would certainly need. You can just see the top of that tree, the branch moving, which is usually something that you look out for. An elephant can easily disappear in and amongst the thicker vegetation. You can stand and feed on a newly leafed tree like this for a very, very long time. You can see he's carefully kind of combing through the branches, reaching for the top parts. The most recent growth exposed to the sun. We can see also his skin looks quite dry today. Not excessive mud plastering like what we saw those elephants earlier doing at Oldonio. I'm assuming this elephant is rather relaxed with this type of weather today. Looks like quite a large bull. And I'm purely saying this because of the broad base of the trunk, that space between its tusks. You can see the two little blackbirds called fork-tailed drongos following him. You can see, look at them, they freeze up in the air every now and again and then hawk down. Very, very agile flyers, and I can imagine they must struggle quite a bit. So they're kind of keeping to the side of the elephant that blocks the wind from them. As he's moving like this, he's kicking up a lot of dust. We can see some dust blowing away there, lots of loose insects. He's coming for a bit of water. Yo, what a view. This is amazing, and we can actually, now we can clearly see the dirty material on the tusk. You can see the trunk, the nose, even the forehead has a slight tinge of green to it. And you can see a bit of the plant material from that tree it was feeding on. And that's amazing. What a view. What a amazing chance to get this close. Be able to see the remarkable skin of an elephant. See him clearly putting his trunk deep into his mouth, kind of hugging the edges so as to spill as little water as possible. Gwen Barber, you saying the way the elephants move and walk looks quite slow motion. It does indeed. And I think it's because relative to how we see them, they're so large. They cover so much distance with one stride that we hardly ever notice how quickly they move, but they can move very, very quickly. An elephant running is an interesting creature. It always needs to have one foot on the ground, but it still moves very quickly. And the difference, one of the main differences between an elephant and a lot of other smaller creatures is they can move that distance over any terrain. Joan, I'm also very happy to be back. Thank you so much. I did miss it yesterday. Had a bit of a technical issue this side with signal. But it's indeed good to be back. Good to have such amazing close-ups of elephants. And there comes another elephant. You can see all those different hairs Oh, that was a different elephant actually. Here's our elephant. Both of them's got quite a bit of green on their foreheads and around the trunks. We can see the scratch marks on this elephant closest to us very clearly. So the thorns do leave their mark. But of course to them it's not deterring. We can see they both have the same idea. They both know where to find the best food. They're actually having a bit of luck as of late with a lot of the trees starting to show some green leaves. What a welcome reward for enduring during the dry season. Look at that elephant just resting his tip of his trunk between the trunk and the tusk. What a nice relaxing way to keep it. You can see the tip always open. And there we can see it looks like it's got two little fingers on either side, the top and the bottom, and then the two nostrils in the little cup. We can see there by the way it moves, it looks almost like a little oven mitten. Perfect to grab. I can see it's missing a bit of the grey color. Maybe that's to enhance the sensitivity. All those little dots there with little hairs coming out of it, all very, very sensitive nerve endings that help the elephant adjust its strength and the use of its muscles. And it enables this massive creature to be so dexterous, it is ridiculous. They can actually, some of the studies that they've done where they've tested how strong and how they move the trunk and adjust it in order to pick up things. They used Dorito chips in one study where they basically put it on a scale and then they would measure the amount of pressure that the elephant would use in order to pick it up, and very effectively sucked in just enough air to keep the Dorito there, and then they just control that amount of air that they suck in and release, and that's how they use the tip of their trunk to manipulate and pick up some very, very small, very, very delicate things. I guess it would be somewhere along the equivalent of us sucking in air to keep a piece of paper over our mouth. Now I can see the way it's moving it with this wind and the speed that this wind's blowing at. I can imagine there must be tons of different chemical trails in the air. elephants all over. See the one poor left foot is slightly up. Doesn't look like he's drinking water. I think he's busy investigating the edge of the pan there. Amazing creatures, elephants. And the longer I have the fortunate opportunity to watch them, the more enthralled I get by them. Not just from a pure physiological way of functioning. I mean, such a massive animal, so completely different to us. But also their social dynamics. And then, of course, each of them, their individual little traits and mannerisms that they have that set them apart from others. Monique, you're asking how they breathe through their trunk. So that trunk, the nasal cavity sits with the trunk and it runs all the way up, and they basically suck in the air through their trunks, and that goes directly down into the lungs. But what is very interesting is an elephant mostly breathes out of its trunk, and very little times do it actually breathe through its mouth. It can, and occasionally it will switch between, like we will. For instance, if we have our nose blocked for some reason, then that might happen. But they can also breathe through it when they swim. And even though they are known to keep their breaths for quite extended periods of time, they can keep their trunk up. There's a bit of a snorkel. They've got natural buoyancy, so quite an interesting creature. Certainly kept a lot of their adaptations from a former aquatic lifestyle. And then, of course, like we can see there, for instance, now it's got its trunk in the other one's mouth. Now, that's usually the way they investigate each other. It's usually how they get to know each other. And then, of course, also reassure each other of their intentions, of everything. But they are very intelligent and unique animals. I know when they are immobilized through certain veterinary chemicals, then what needs to happen, one of the main things, is to make sure that the breathing rate is constant, and that usually goes through the nose. So one of the first things to do when an elephant gets immobilized is one needs to run, and you need to open the nose and stick a stick in there to make sure that the trunk doesn't, or the tip doesn't close up, because they are immobilized. They have some function, bodily function, but some of the outer bodily functions are not capable. So like one of them is they won't be able to move their trunk and of course manipulate the opening. You can see this elephant still standing there, kind of amazed. He's just paying attention to the nearby area. Mercedes, being you saying it's a great close-up. I agree. I think these close-ups are fantastic. We can see all the little, what looks like pores on the animal's skin there. Those are all little holes that have small little hairs, and that's got nerve endings attached to it. So it helps the elephant with its awareness of its large size, especially area around the head. Interesting, it's moving off in the same direction as the other one. I'm not sure if it's what a view. It's amazing to think how they slip right in between those tusks of each other, not hurting each other. And of course they do have their trunks to act as a bit of a cushion, but clearly these two are quite at ease with each other. You can see trunk just up in the air, just kind of scoping the area out. Somewhere as a sonar on a submarine would do. Danny, indeed, it looked like they almost punctured each other's eyes out there. It was quite close. What I found amazing is just see that tusk come past. Such a hard, useful tool, and then close to such a sensitive, vulnerable part of the body. A clear indication of a level of trust between these two. These two have given us a fantastic show here, and I hope they find more elephants wherever they're heading off to, but I think we're gonna leave the two of them and we're gonna head over to Okukuyu. Where we have more elephants. Some leaving, some coming in. and some springbok. Oh no, it looks like most of the elephant might be leaving. So, I want to remind our viewers about our travel fireside chat, which would be on the 15th of September, and it will be at 7 o'clock Central African time. It's open to all, and Amy and Andrew will talk about Wild Earth travel and all the exciting travel opportunities that Wild Earth have in store. And then, just another thing to remind our viewers as well is of the time change that Wild Earth will have from the 18th of September. We're getting to that time of the year that our season in South Africa is changing in a big part of Southern Africa. So the sunrise safari will now be from 5:30 to 8:30 Central African time. And live at the watering hole will be from 12:30 and ending at 2:30 Central African time. But the sunset safari still stays the same as it is currently. I always find it amazing where you have that moment of chaos in an elephant herd. And with moment of chaos, I'm specifically referring to the breakup of the clear structure that we can see. The moment they move off, they're all hands on deck. Matriarchal female, the main female in the group, calls the shots, they move, and they all go back to their little family units. And when they're at the water, they completely lose it. And they just play around, they all enjoy themselves. This has been quite a sight, seeing a herd of elephants moving off from Pan here. But I think let's see what's happening with Africamp's got us at Founders Camp this afternoon. From one amazing pachyderm to the next. Interesting how these two creatures have such a completely different way of nourishing themselves, especially when it gets to drink. Elephants are noisy and excited, and this rhino is quite calm. I had to keep very, very still to hear it sipping up the water. You can see it's hardly, his lips are wet, hardly at all. It's mainly from the mucus coming from the nostrils. Mindy Telepo You're saying now that's a sighting. I agree. What I like about this sighting is this rhino is also near that rubbing rock. What an incredible animal. Very oddly shaped animal. Just came in for a drink, no other reasons. No need to wallow. My guess would be that it's probably not going to head too far from the spot. I might either find a good little spot nearby, or maybe it might feed a little bit. But now that the rhino's moved off, let's go see if we can get another glimpse of one ton at Old Onyo. There we have an oryx. And some beautiful views of some of the Achelias or acacias in these parts. Lots of scattered elephant and other animal dung on the ground. Grass cover almost completely removed by some hoof action. Joe McClellan, I don't know if today can get any better, but I'm always hoping for that. I think it's been magnificent this far. Some good elephant action. And with the breeze going here at Old Onyo, all I can see is birds flying back and forth. You can see that tree there clearly having a very clear browse line, also forming a bit of an umbrella shady patch there. Good spot for animals to come and wait. They turn near the watering hole. And one or two dead trees, good purchase for birds. Good nesting site for birds, especially hole nesting birds, which there are quite a few around, and there's not always available holes to nest in. Now, I can't see too clearly what these birds are. It looks like there's some wattle starlings there, but I might be wrong. And then we have an elephant. And another magnificent close-up view of the skin. You can see the growths developing on the eyes and the top of the forehead. And on the side where this animal scratches himself, rubs himself up against trees. You can see his uniquely tattered ears. A big head, making space for that big brain. And we can see just this simple act of drinking from the water supply directly shows us how intelligent these animals are. He knows it's the clean water, he knows how to access it. I'm pretty sure he's probably covering the entire inlet with the tip of his trunk, sucking out the water directly. Now it looks like the cloud in the background have built a little bit from earlier on. And what I do know from a cloud build-up like that is that it can be very, very humid. Oh, what view! To Iran and some zebra. See one much younger and one much older eland, and there's another one coming in. Oh, another few coming in. Amazing animals to see. Quite nervous around watering holes, around other animals, but very unique animals. Now we have some giraffe coming in as well. Looks like it's getting really busy here. I always find this interesting. The oxpeckers are so numerous around this watering hole, and I know I mention them a lot, but you can see those giraffes are covered. The zebras are getting given a bit grief from them. And sometimes even spooks one or two. And zebras tend to take their frustration out on each other. Okay. I think the elephants had enough of the disturbance. I think clearly that round belongs to the zebra. Here comes the eland back. Oh, there's quite a few zebras. I love how they move right into the water. Mindy Tilipo, what a nice variety indeed. Quite a lot. Quite like the color differences of the eland and now the zebra as well. The zebra is clearly trying to fit in as many as possible in there. Catherine, you also say you like the beautiful view. I also think it's very beautiful. What I like about the view here at Oldonyo is it gives you that classical dry season African look where you have the golden grass, the green tree line in the middle, and then the blue sky. And I prefer the blue sky with a bit of cloud in it. Always makes for exciting weather. Exciting weather brings about exciting behavior. While these animals fight it out for a spot to drink, we're going to head back over to Okukuyu. Where we have swimming elephant and some springbok and something else off to the right. There's always when there's a lot of animals coming from the far end of this watering hole, sometimes it can be a little bit tricky to tell exactly what they are. It looks like something larger. I see now, and it looks like there's 2 elephants in the water there. Didn't notice that. Swimming and drinking. Fully utilizing this chance. Earlier on we had some elephants move off. Seemed like a decent sized herd. Maybe 20 odd animals. And over here we've just got these 3. I'm assuming these are some of the younger and maybe one older bull. Looks like there's a slight size difference between the one standing and the 2 down in the water. It's also quite interesting. One can tell from... Oh, and what is that in the background? That looks like a Cory bustard. Standing between the back of the elephants in the water and the dead branch in the distance. I think that springbok coming over from the left is going to walk right past it. It's either that or it is an Egyptian goose. It definitely is a Cory bustard. What an amazing bird to see. Not a bird I've often seen near the water. I do like these dry, open, arid areas. It's got some very stately movements there on the edge. Lady Macbeth, you say that you've visited this watering hole, and you also love this watering hole. I haven't had the privilege of seeing it with my own eyes. I would love to. But I see you also saying that it was quite empty when you were there last at lunchtime. And you think that everybody was hiding in the shade, which is very possible. I mean, it gets extremely, extremely hot out here. And yes, indeed, animals can hide. Now, these elephants I was mentioning earlier on, they're only 3. They're probably a group of younger and maybe 1 or 2 older bulls that's moving along the area because of the fact that the herds are moving in and around this area. At least from what I gather, the drier parts around this section of Namibia find that the elephants tend to spend a lot of time in this region of Okukuyu for their winter feeding grounds. Means that there's some good food in that area. You can see these two are literally just soaking it up. I have to say, I guess it's a lot deeper than I thought. Look at that elephant. Get completely flat on its side there. Now they're both down. I love how there's like a constant little play and touch, just keeping its trunk on the other one, just knowing where it is. Often, especially amongst these younger males, in a situation like this would prompt them with a burst of energy, and you often see them push each other around and play. And playing animals, of course, is a way of honing skills and exercising. And you can't help but wonder if they are just so overwhelmed with the relief of the moisture that they might just be touching the other one to kind of share the sheer joy of being able to swim. Looks like the one's moved off, the third elephant. The fact that he has kept himself at a distance from these two, maybe it is an older. There he is. He's just moving around. And I wonder I'm guessing that he might go onto that major game trail that side and then follow the herd, because he would definitely pick up, you can see his trunks on the ground. And for elephants, generally that means they're searching for signs of other elephants. I wonder they have that stop just in line more or less with those first trees away from the water along that game trail. And it looks like sometimes they have a bit of a feed there. And I'm also taking the fact that the elephants often move off in that direction, meaning that there's some good feeding grounds nearby there. They are moving in the direction of those trees, which very likely provides them with a bit of shade from this heat as well as food. And I still can't help but feel like the sight of an elephant in this unique landscape is so out of place. And there is another elephant. Also similar in size, possibly a young male as well. But to see an elephant and a springbuck in the same area, still a little bit out of place for me, not something I'm too used to. I am enjoying it thoroughly. And I'm very, very thankful to be able to have a look at all these various habitats, various ecosystems, and all the different creatures that they provide a living space for. I'm just astounded by the sheer diversity that you get to witness. Similar creatures in some cases, but a lot of different species in different areas, and then of course all the different groups of elephants with their uniquely adapted lifestyles. And those elephants are casually moving off. You can see that elephant stopped there, so I'm going to see now if the others stop as well. Well, that was very, very special. I'm sure they've muddied up this pan quite a bit now. in that patch there. Always a bit of a stop there. Oh, I can see lots of springbok coming down now. Animals have given the elephants a chance. But yeah, I think they're also moving in the direction of where the females went. Following the game trail through the rocky terrain. But watching the elephants moving off from one special region to the next, let's head over to Olifants. We have a spectacular bull giraffe in the river. Must be one of my favorite sights. I've been privileged to see this in the wild before, but it's not a common sight, and it took me many years to witness such an event. And I've often wondered why. I've had lengthy conversations before with other naturalists, other guides, members of the scientific community as to why exactly. Seems to be quite a lot of talk around it. Nobody's really sure exactly, I guess. Can speculate. Where he's standing in a bit of a deeper channel there. As this river flows, especially during the wet season, it creates all these different channels from the various banks, large trees, and other reasons. You have a lot of some deeper channels, some less deep channels towards the end of the dry season. They're usually quite clearly defined. But that's also the only time that I've seen giraffe cross the river. Mainly males. See from the bobbing of the head, it's quite a bit of effort that he's putting into that. Now we can see he's coming out of the deeper channel. But I know that one of the suspected reasons might be the fact that it might just be unsure footing, which could provide them with some unstable ground and therefore risk. Looking back casually, it looks like he's looking over to some of the other animals on the far bank coming down to have a drink. But he must be quite determined. Now he's got quite a steep bank to follow up on as well. This should be good to see. Judging from all the elephant dung on the ground there, I'm pretty sure there's some decent elephant pathways up there that provide him with a means to get up. It looks like a really large bull. And these guys do travel very large distances. in search of females or other herds. Sarah, you're asking if this giraffe could be hesitant to cross due to the presence of crocs. Now, that's a very good question because, in short, I don't know. But I suspect it might have something to do with it. They usually don't cross when the river's deeper. And one of the reasons that they could fear a potential unstable situation to move through is if they do get toppled over, there's always a chance that the croc might get them. Now, a very big crocodile, if a giraffe topples over in the river, would have every chance. So possibly, maybe it's an instinctive fear. The croc's been around for a very, very long time, long before the giraffe. Maybe it might be a genetic fear of the crocodile. It gets passed down through the ages. A lot of animals instinctively fear the water. We can see some very well-worn pathways. I can see a bit of green grass there. And then, of course, those very large trees. It's providing ample and very welcome shade in the heat of the day. But it's quite overcast in that region, in the low veld. So animals will be quite active. Maybe not so busy around the water as usual. What a beautiful sight, what a beautiful area. You can see from the exposed banks in the river that the river is not at full capacity. But that was well worth it, seeing a giraffe cross. And talking about well worth it, let's have a look and see what's happening at Tau today. And here we have crocodiles. Talking about crocodiles. Stretch out across each other and they look rather sleepy. Dozing off in the sun. Looks nice and warm there today. And what is that? The spurwing goose there in the background. If I'm not mistaken, it looks like he's got something good there. And what seems to be a muddy patch left by an elephant track. And I can see the one croc still looks like it's a bit covered in mud, so they've probably come out not too long ago out of those channels. These elephants wading through, I've seen a couple of times that the elephant bulls come wading through to get that green grass, and we can see now they've created these deeper channels, like their weight pushing things off. And what do we have there? Is that the grey heron? Looks like it. You can see the crocodile's eyes look completely closed. Oh, there the one's moving. It's opening up its mouth. And that one does look a little drier than the one on top of it. Now, one of the possible reasons for opening the mouth is to help regulate the heat, because the crocodile needs to regulate its body temperature through active measures using the natural elements. Being a reptile, it uses the environment to regulate its body temperature. But what it does when it opens the mouth, one of the theories suggests, is it helps with a bit of vision to cool it down, and then release some of the excess heat. While each of those little knobs and blocks, scales on the back, they have bone in that, protecting the crocodile, kind of like an armored shield, but it also acts a little bit like a solar panel, distributing the heat as evenly as possible across the animal. And here we can see a very focused grey heron staring into the long grass. Quite a common bird throughout South Africa, but very beautiful bird. Very welcome visitor to every pond. Or dam or watering hole. See that intense focus, not wavering at all. And it'll strike with pinpoint accuracy from that position, kind of winding itself up. And here we have the common moorhen. Grooming itself. It's cleaning down on the chest or the lower chest area down to the breast, and I'm assuming it's probably trying to clean the feathers from wading through that muddy water. See, the heron's head is up, so it's more than likely lost sight of whatever it was focused on. And this spurwing goose is still very, very busy. Oh, we can see the sun reflecting off the feathers beautifully, revealing that iridescence within this, which is otherwise absent, and makes it look like quite a dull bird. And it's really getting in there. I can imagine that there must be quite a lot to eat. In that particular area. Quite an odd looking bird. probably might be getting at some of the exposed roots there of the grasses or the aquatic plants. Not quite a interesting creature. It's got a very wide diet. The geese, the duck, especially this one and the Egyptian goose. Mindy Tillapo, you're saying that the water level doesn't look high enough to cover the crocs. It doesn't indeed, but I can see that it's changed a little here and there, like it's dried out quite a bit. But you can see right in front of these crocodiles, and that's possibly why they in this particular area. But those areas there around it, that's channels clearly created by the elephants, almost in the circular motion, like semicircles or half circles, and that's possibly just from the elephants moving around the grassy patches to get to the different areas and reach the grass at the different levels. You can see over here as well, but it's much less shallow here, and that's why we are seeing quite a few birds, wading birds moving here. Looks like, what are those? Some three-banded plovers. Blacksmith lapwing, there's a common moorhen. You can see it's very busy around these smaller puddles, and those are mostly elephant tracks. Well, some other animals as well, but they look large and flat little pools, so elephants stepping in. Providing a useful habitat to all these birds. And then we can see all the churned up mud starting to dry out. Now, while it's wet, it's waterlogged, that maintains the moisture for a long time. But once it dries, it becomes a very hard cement. All the little creatures still staying in the mud deeper in. The outer crust comes very hard, but in the cracks there's still moisture, so little frogs, amphibians would hide away in those cracks. There we go, there's a black crake. And what I find quite interesting about these birds, especially this, like the crake, now birds moving there, all we see is its head popping up every now and again. But there's so many different little creatures and things moving there, and just the speed of their eyesight, the ability of picking up on a moving insect around it, near it. I find it incredible. They're so sharp. And there we can see the habitat revealing presence of animals. Vital, important space to animals. The best part is that there's still these islands with green grass. What do we have there? A red-billed teal. That is pretty amazing. Nice bird to add to the list. But before we get into that, I want to remind our guests about, our viewers about the Ultimate Kenya experience with James Henry that'll take place in May next year, 2025, and there will be 6 people that will be joining James, but there's only 4 spots left, so you've got to hurry. And of course, the most amazing thing about Kenya is Amboseli and the Masai Mara, both world-renowned, amazing safari regions. In Buseli, you can of course see Mount Kilimanjaro in the distance and potentially get the chance to take a photo of an elephant with the mountain in the background. And then known for its large herds of elephants and large elephants. And then of course the Masai Mara, arguably the best safari in Africa. And the best part about it is it'll be in a time of the year that it's not so busy as usual. And of course, you'll have James that will make it fun and interactive, and certainly a bucket list experience. Here we have the heron again. Doesn't look like he's got had any luck recently, but he's standing hopefully next to a deeper channel. But we're gonna leave this heron and head over to Oldonyo. Here we have an elephant in the water. Sort of. And these two are just cooling down. And chasing birds around every time. Now the elephant in the water looks like he's in a funny mood. He wants to have some conversation where the other one might not be as eager. You can see they wetting up those parts right behind the ears properly. Right there to aid the flapping and cooling down. Cool moisture of the skin, of course, will help the general process. I'm amazed by the amount of birds around this watering hole. There are so many. Now, I'm not too familiar with a lot of the East African species to the point where I know exactly which ones occur in this region. Occasionally I do see some interesting species there that I recognize. You can hear how long that elephant was slurping up water from the inlet there directly into his mouth. And it looks like the elephant standing facing us with its back is eagerly awaiting a turn. Maybe that's why he was in such a funny mood earlier. In the background, the giraffe just stopped to eat. Interesting how he was feeding facing lower down. And there we have an oryx. An interesting thing with the oryx, I think we've got another elephant coming in. It's amazing how the elephants in this region, they just come and go to the span. Such an active area, such a busy area. But what I wanted to say about the oryx, and something that I actually didn't realize earlier, is that the ones we find here is the East African oryx. It's regarded as a different species from those found in Namibia. Which is a Southern African oryx. And the even more interesting thing about that is that in southern Kenya there's a subspecies of them. But we'll leave these elephants and let's head over to Founders Camp. Here we have a chance to get to see this mother and calf. This is pretty spectacular. And interestingly enough, they came to the same spot as where we had the male drinking earlier. And have a look at how the little one's kind of holding the fort while mum's having a drink. he's going. His feet look wet, so he must have been in the water. She's looking around a little nervously. I can see her ears are flat. She probably would have drank a little longer if she had the chance there. And she's continuing to drink, just in a different spot where she's got a better view now. And he's just keep going. He's got his nose down on the ground, so he might have the scent of maybe one of the other rhinos that's come around. And these little ones can be quite curious, and they can keep their curiosity for a long time. There's usually a period at the start when they're very, very curious, like for their first 6 to 9 months. But even after that, they do retain some measure of curiosity, and when they pick up on something interesting and they want to head there, the mother kind of just follows. Mindy Tilipo, you saying that this watering hole has the most stunning backdrop. It is indeed extremely stunning. It's got those beautiful, beautiful hills in the background. You can see some of them quite open with a little bit of vegetation cover here and there. And the fact that it's so high up, it's got such a nice view of the surrounding area. I think that's the best. And I'm sure the animals in part also come up here kind of just to use it as a bit of a lookout as well, especially giraffe, I'm pretty sure. Then it's got that almost picture perfect tree there on the left hand side for a bit of shade. But indeed an amazing, amazing spot this. Now you can see there's a good breeze going there. I can see that not only the trees can be moving, but also on the water. And I think that's also in part why the animals aren't sticking around too long today. Generally on the windier days you find that the animals tend to move a little bit more into the ditches, into the gaps. But yeah, I think let's head over to Old Donyo. Ooh, we've got some big elephants and some very big eland. Yo. Looks like two beautiful young males. Look at that eland using its horn to scratch its shoulder. Oops. Looks like we might have lost Old Donyo. So we're back at tower, but never mind. What a beautiful place this is. Always quite exciting as well. And then we've got a wildebeest coming down. 2 zebra leaving. Let's see what this wildebeest does. Let's see which side he's heading to. Just one. Maybe a bull that's got a little patch somewhere nearby. He is not too long now. Let's hold out. And the rains will come. And once the rains come, then he's got a prime spot. He's making quite a beeline for it. He knows where he wants to go. What an interesting looking animal. I think I just have to point it out. Got those marks running down the neck onto the shoulders. Almost like up until just behind the shoulders, on the ribs, halfway down the necks. Where its other name comes from, the brindled canoe. Those are known as brindles. And another beautiful male animal. Nice big kudu. Phew, that is a big kudu. That kudu has a very wide spread of horns. Carefully scoping the area out. Keeping one ear on the back. Very carefully glancing around the watering hole. We can see slowly turning his head. Now giving us a show, looking straight at the camera. See how he's covering all his bases. One ear behind him. This is a very clear indication of how these animals use their senses effectively, and why he's got such large ears and rather large eyes. You can see he's not moving his tail. Of course, Using the ears comes instinctively. The wind's coming over from behind his head. You're able to pick up on the scent of anything coming from that. You can see he knows he blends in well. As the camera's zooming out, you can see how carefully he's blending against that grey dull background. But he's making very, very sure that there's no danger. Quiet watering hole could potentially spell danger, of course. Catherine, I agree. Kudu fits perfectly into those winter colors. You can see that grey dull color, slight bit of goldenish brown down further lower on the legs, just making it blend in. If it would have moved through the dead grass in some areas, which are otherwise known. Well, one of its locally referred to names is the grey ghost. It stems from periods long ago when these animals used to be hunted for their meat and other products. And in those areas they were very tough to find. Everything about this animal is designed to blend in, to kind of fade away, and to be able to move in the thicker bush. And that's why, now that it's moving out into the open, it's going down to the water to drink. You notice that it's vitally important to stop and scan. By the looks of it now, I think there's also something over in that direction. It's probably caught his attention. Not sure if it might be other kudu or other animals. It could be either or. But a spectacular antelope. Wildebeest moving away. And looks like he's got his head down. Maybe it's because the kudu stole the show. It's still not moving much. I would love to see the kudu actually move now, or make its decision. Now the crazy thing is those very white markings around its lips and its ears, and the movement of it, that would be spotted by some of the other animals. And there's the teal again. Oh. And the spurwing goose is taking a bit of a bath there. Maybe it was making itself like a little bit of a deeper pool there to bathe itself. The teal seems like it's just resting, its head away from the sun. It doesn't seem bothered by the goose. Oh, teal is an interesting bird. Good spot, this type of spot where they might breed, actually. Green grassy ponds, quite common throughout watering holes all over South Africa. Danny, I'm very glad you enjoyed the show. I did too. I thought it was amazing. I think it was a great start that just continued throughout. Had some spectacular elephant sightings, some very good bird sightings, beautiful sighting of that kudu. It seems like he's now moving to the water. And the crocodiles. All around, it's been an amazing afternoon. And with that, would like to thank all our viewers for joining us this afternoon. I really hope that you stay on for the sunset safari this evening, and that there's some spectacular sightings there. And I hope you join us again tomorrow afternoon to see what exciting stuff we get to see around here. Otherwise, bye from all of us here at Wild Earth.